recording here. I'll do a quick little countdown and intro to the show. I'll introduce you, and then we'll just start rolling from there.
Okay. Am I coming in okay on this mic? Is it?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sounds okay. Okay.
Let me do a quick little sound check if you want to keep talking.
All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Perfect.
7.
Quick little check here.
8, 9.
All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
There it is. All right.
In a world where one man
Speaks into a microphone.
to
All right. I'll give us the countdown here, and we'll get going.
Okay.
And
how do I get?
Oop.
Okay.
You good? All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. All right. We are back again for another awesome week on the I Know You Hear Me podcast. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and be 100% honest. This is one I am excited to jump into today. Our guest is somebody that I became familiar with through his now wife from the Adam Carolla show. And he is somebody that since I've gotten into improv too, I've become a huge fan of his podcast and just the different actors and his co-host that he has on there as well. And we're going to jump into all that here in just a minute. But before we do, of course, I got to take a minute and thank our sponsors for keeping this show going. And I got to thank you, the audience, for keeping this show going as well. You tune in every week, you show the support, you leave the 5-star reviews on iTunes, you follow us on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You guys keep this show going, and I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. But now, without further ado, like I said, I'm excited to jump into this one. My guest today is not only an improv artist, he's part of Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network, and he's also the co-host with Aristotle Atari of This American Laugh. It's my pleasure to have on the show today, Andy Harris.
Hey.
How's it going, Andy?
Fantastic. I'm happy to be here.
I am excited to have you on here, man. And like I was saying kind of in the introduction there, I became familiar with you through your now wife, Gina Grad, on the Adam Carolla show. I would hear her mention you, and then became familiar with you on Twitter through your Emperor Palpatine reading Trump tweets.
Right.
Now your Marjorie Taylor Greene videos, like you're just crushing it, man. It's awesome stuff. So
thank you.
It is a huge pleasure to have you on here tonight. So can't thank you enough.
Oh, my pleasure.
Right, man. So let's jump right into it. I want to start from the very beginning, man. Like what got you into acting? What got you into improv? Like how did this all start for Andy?
Oh man. I mean, performing, I suppose it started in 4th or 5th grade when I would rip off SNL sketches and pass them off as my own and get my classmates to act them out for the teacher.
Nice.
Cut to later, I actually have been in broadcasting for 20 years, I guess. I mean, since college. I went to college, bombed out because I just didn't go to classes. And,
right.
And begged my parents to let me enroll in a broadcasting school in Charlotte. And it was like a 6-month, 9-month, something like that program.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the Carolina School of Broadcasting. And then I just got a bunch of internships. And then, very low paying jobs. I think my first job was at a radio station in Dallas, North Carolina. It was, I had no idea such a place existed.
Same here.
And it was an AM station that basically they were just like they were just airing syndicated programming. And I would just sit in there and run a board for 8 hours.
Gotcha.
And by the time I would leave, I would get in my car, I would leave the parking lot, and the signal would fade in my car. That's how small of a station it was. And then for a while, I interned at a radio station in Charlotte, and then got a production job there.
Nice.
I worked for the NBA for a while, doing all the in-game music and sounds for the Charlotte Hornets and then the Bobcats, and then the baseball team, the minor league baseball team, that like all the sports teams in Charlotte, I would do the sound for, except for except for the Panthers. And then I applied for a job out here in LA doing production for a radio station out here, and got the job out here. Moved out here 15 years ago, and stayed out here. And
Nice.
And now I produce, I voice and produce radio, like countdown shows for iHeart Radio, and I also do like I write and voice and produce comedy for morning shows, for radio morning shows.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that part of the story right there.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? How did that portion of the journey there? How did you start doing the comedy writing?
It was just like it was just freelance for like the morning show at the station that I worked at.
Mhm.
They every station needs like comedy bits and parodies and stuff. And one day I just kind of took it upon myself to write something for it, just like a quick, into a quick into commercial thing or something. I can't remember what it was, but and then I started kind of freelancing for other shows, and then and that kind of became my bread and butter.
Nice.
And so I kind of do all of it. And then I got into doing improv on stage in 08, I think 08 or 09.
Mhm.
I started taking classes at I started taking improv classes at the Upright Citizens Brigade in LA, and stuck with it because the reason why I started doing it was to kind of make me better at the structure of comedy and the structure of like how a scene should be for the purpose of doing radio.
I gotcha.
But then they just kind of, I just started loving it, and kind of
Right.
loved the community, and met some great people, and the rush of live on stage was great, and I
Oh yeah.
stuck with it and finished the program, and took sketch classes there too. And for a while I did a regular show at IO West for a while. I did a sketch show at IO West for a while. I just for a while there, I was almost every night I was doing some sort of live show. So
like you said, you can't beat the rush of that live stage performance either.
Yeah, it was great. There used to be, I used to work on a show at IO West before it closed down, called Top Story Weekly.
Mm-hmm.
I used to write for them, and then I joined the cast, and it was basically an SNL type weekly live show, and that was great. That was my friend Philip Wilburn. He actually did an episode of our podcast a few months ago. Yeah, it was great. It was a great community to be a part of. It was a great way to kind of loosen up and
absolutely,
and kind of get used to kind of really thinking, and that works out great in this, with this new the new podcast revolution that's happening, because that's what
absolutely so. And with that whole journey right there, I know you said like you bombed out of college, and then you you got into the program, and you asked your parents for the help with that. Were they pretty supportive of all of this, like going into that program and then everything from there?
Yeah, I mean, they were, they wouldn't have told me this, but I'm sure that they were disappointed, because I wasn't completely honest with why I was leaving college.
Gotcha.
I mean, I wasn't exactly admitting that I sucked.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Was being politely asked to leave. But like, my dad sat me down, to his credit. He was like, is this really something that you're interested in doing, or is this like, is this just going to be until the next thing? And I was like, I'm really into this. I really think that this is something that I want to do, and luckily it worked out. So
Absolutely.
and he takes all of the credit for it now.
Of course. That's what the dads do. But on top of that too, like you said, you made the big move across the country too. What was that process like for you to just uproot everything and then move from, the Carolinas all the way over to California? Like, how was all that for you?
It was one of the most exhilarating things I've ever done. It was great.
Nice.
I mean, because there wasn't really when I was in Charlotte, I loved it. I loved all the people. My family's there. My dad's there. And but it was like I need something new. I've kind of like there's not really much more I can do here.
Right.
That was what got me looking for other jobs in the first place. So I was like, maybe I can make some more money somewhere else, or maybe I can make something. And because I was working for all the sports teams, and I was working for 2 radio stations, and I was like, I mean, if I'm still kind of struggling, and I'm doing all this, I'm working 14-hour days, there has to be something else out there.
Absolutely.
And, so I applied to I really didn't. I did not discriminate. I applied to maybe 20 different places. I was sending demos to everyone, and a station here, a few called me back, maybe 2 or 3, and then a station here in LA, they called me up and said, we loved your demo. You want to fly out here to meet? I was like, oh, well, this is great. And then it was like all kind of a blur.
Right.
Like I flew out here. I met with the program director here. I flew back to Charlotte. I went to work. I flew here, interviewed, flew back to Charlotte. The next morning, flew to Houston to work the All-Star game, doing sound for the All-Star game. And then I flew back and found out I got the job. And then my dad and I, packed up all my stuff and we drove out here. It took us 5 days, and it was great. They put me up in an apartment here for a couple of weeks. I mean, it was terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
Like here's the thing about moving to a larger city, specifically one like LA or New York or whatever. When you first visit or you're first there, you're like, oh my God, this is surreal. What a beautiful place. And that lasts for like 2 weeks. And then it's like,
honeymoon phase is over.
It's like kind of a place that I live now. And you almost get, you almost get angry with people who are here visiting, and they're like, oh, this is great. It's like, oh, you don't know. It's not that great. But it was great. I mean, I felt like I was, my job was to, my job was to have, if somebody came in to do the morning show, they would have to stop by my office and say like, hey, this is so-and-so, and you're listening. They would have to record liners for me, and I would have to use that for promos. And it was cool because I went from Charlotte, where it was like, every once in a while you'd have like the third string, quarterback for the Panthers come in, and you're like, ooh, it's exciting. And then you come out here and it's like every day there's somebody that you're like, oh man, this, Norm Macdonald or, like anyone. And that was great. And then, that kind of wore off, and then it became just a place that I live. But I would definitely recommend that to anybody to at least once in your life, if you're able to at least go after a job in like a big market, especially if you're in the media, like in a big market, because at least apply for it. I mean, not necessarily, you have to get it. I mean, just like there's just something exciting about daydreaming about getting like that big job. Absolutely. And a lot of people, like, what kept me from trying to do it was, just thinking about the crushing failure of not getting it.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. I mean, everybody gets it. So it worked out.
I would say so. And that that crushing fear right there, that trepidation is something that's probably held so many people back from achieving what could have been that dream job or that full potential. So, I mean, it's awesome to hear that you took the chance and you also bet on yourself and you made something happen out of it. I mean, that's an amazing story.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like stuff works out. I mean,
Yeah.
like if somebody, you know, I've got a kid, I've got a wife, I've got a job here, I've got a life here. And, you know, if somebody said, you know, there's this great opportunity in New York or wherever, London, who knows? You know, of course, there's always that little part of you that's like, how would I make that work? I can't do that. I mean, I got this here. I got, you know, and, you know, it just ends up, you end up making it work. You have to make it, just ends up happening.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, so there's never a really good time to completely change circumstances.
That's true.
So you might as well do it, because it's never going to be the right time.
Amen to that. Now, going back to like when you got out here, you got involved with the improv, you were doing the sketch, you know, the sketch shows, and you were doing that, like you said, just about every day.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a two-part question. When did you feel like everything kind of started clicking for you as far as like your comedic timing and when you felt comfortable, like, I guess, in your own skin, so to speak? And then also too, doing it that frequently, like you said, every day, how did you avoid fatigue and burnout in a situation like that too?
Well, the first part of your question is I never really, I mean, I still get nervous before things.
Right.
I get nervous before recording a podcast. I get, you know, that never really goes away. And like there was, I'll tell you when it was, when things kind of changed. Okay. So my podcast co-host right now on This American Laugh, right? Aristotle, Ari. We've known each other. We've been doing improv together for about 10 years, probably, roughly. We were in, we did 2-man improv for a while, but before that, we were in a larger group. We had like 7 or 8 people in this improv group, and we were just starting out. This was in 2009. And we were about to go on stage at UCB for they used to have a Friday night show called Let's Do This, run by I think Amanda Sitko and Jenny Pearson used to run this show. And so we're backstage, you know, we've you know, we're just barely out of classes, and like, you know, it was kind of like it was like kind of like anybody can. You sign up for this show. I mean, anybody can get up, you know, and you just have to be patient enough to wait however many months.
Right.
And so we're backstage sitting there, and Robin Williams comes backstage.
Wow.
And, you know, I guess it wasn't too uncommon for, well, first of all, for a big name to come backstage and hang out in the green room on any night. But I guess he used to hang around the theater a lot. And, you know, we're, you know, all acting like we're cool and like, yeah, no, this is totally normal. You know, this guy back here hanging out. And he goes, would you mind if I came out on stage with you guys? And we're like, you know, like, and we're like, yeah, I guess that's all right. Okay, fine. So I had a friend in town, a friend from high school in town. And he's like, hey, I'm going to come watch your improv show. Is that all right? I was like, oh man, you don't want to do that. I mean, it's going to be terrible. I mean, we're not that great. So he comes to the show. And so we walk out, and they said, with a special guest, here's Robin Williams. And he comes out, and everybody's just like, oh my God. And I look at this friend of mine who's in town. He's like, is it like this every week? Oh my God. And he was up there he did a 30-minute long set with us. And then afterwards we hung out backstage in the green room for a while, and he and Ari got into like a rap battle, and and then he hung out, and then outside after the show, after the theater had closed, he hung out with us again afterwards, and like was chatting it up and talking to us about, you know, telling us old stories about, you know, Red Fox and whatever. And
amazing.
It was great. And then after that, like we felt like we were like the shit. Like we were like the stars of the improv community. Like Robin Williams came on. I mean, it wasn't the case. I mean, we were just we were all right.
Right.
But that is probably what gave me like, that was kind of the changing moment of like, okay, well, I guess I belong here, and like if I can get up on stage with Robin Williams and not piss my pants and like then maybe this will work out, and that kind of changed it. Like I felt like I had, like we all did, we felt like we had achieved like just a different status of like of being able to hang with the pros.
Yeah.
And so after that, it was like, it was easy. And then, and as for avoiding fatigue, I mean, I never really avoided that. I mean, it was exhausting. I mean, because, you're doing these shows and it's free, you're not getting paid for them. And it's a grind, but it's fun. I mean, because you're getting up on stage and you're getting the adrenaline of doing a stupid improv show that like is just kind of a fuck around for a half hour. And it's great. And it turns out that I made a lifelong working partner, friend in that community, and like it's great. And it made me a much better. It made me more able to kind of assemble a comedy bit in my head quickly, and
absolutely,
and act it out like quickly. Just all those reps, all those reps over and over again for a few years. And then all the theaters closed, and the pandemic came, and the only place to do improv was on Zoom or in a podcast. So
right. And that's kind of like where, after I got out of the independent wrestling business for a little bit, improv was how I started kind of feeding that performance itch. And all of my improv now has been through Zoom, outside of a few local shows here in Nashville. But did you find, like, when you started doing the shows on Zoom, was it harder to feel that connection with your fellow performers than it was, like doing it in person? Did the computer screen or Zoom make any difference in that for you?
Yeah, it did. A few times I did a friend of mine who was we were in an improv group together, and we did a weekly show at IO West. He actually moved back to Omaha, and he opened up a theater in Omaha called The Back Line. And during the pandemic, he would do a week, pretty regular Zoom improv shows. And he did this one that was I can't remember what it was called. Cards of Destiny. He did a show called Cards of Destiny, where it was basically it was more short form improv games as opposed to like a long form, like you're doing a 30-minute like building an entire show.
Right.
And it was great. It was good to like be able to get remember how to activate that part of your brain, and like just trying to think of stuff on the spot. But yeah, it was I didn't really feel like I knew any of those people except for Dylan. But so that's why it's like I was so grateful that we started doing this podcast, this improvised podcast. For a while during the pandemic, I started doing an improvised podcast by myself called Andy Harris Everybody, where I was where I would ask Gina to give me a one-word suggestion from the next room, and then I would just crack the mic and just act out a bunch of scenes with myself, like hey, how you doing? I'm doing great. Okay, good. And then I would edit all that together.
Yeah.
And just basically just to keep it fresh, like keep it like just to still remember how to do it, even if it was
absolutely
alone. I mean, the thing about the pandemic was it was like it kind of forced you to find ways to really keep it going.
Yes,
keep
very
something
true.
going, so the dust doesn't settle.
Absolutely true. And I mean, during the pandemic too, I know it threw a lot of things out of whack for a lot of different people, but I mean, during all that, you and Ari, how did y'all get on Will Ferrell's radar to get on the Big Money Players Network? How did that come about?
We just one day we knew we wanted to work on something together, and we did for a while.
Mhm.
We did a different podcast for a while, but that it kind of stopped when the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
But you know, we wanted to work on some stuff together. We had a few ideas. We rented a studio in Hollywood one day, and we knocked out a few different episodes of different ideas that we had kicking around, and then we pitched those ideas, and that's who picked it up.
Nice.
Was Big Money Players, and after that it was all again all a blur.
Right, right.
Like, so but it was great. It's not my favorite thing about this whole process has been being able to reconnect with we're about to record an episode with one of the guys that was in that old improv group that when Robin Williams came up. It's been a great chance to kind of to reconnect with him.
Absolutely.
And with just the community in general.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned Philip Wilburn earlier too. He's actually a voice actor that I grew up on. So that was a big episode for me because I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I do some voiceover work for one of their side companies. So like hearing him come on there, I didn't know so much about his improv background, but like hearing the chemistry that you guys had, like you could hear that come through in the podcast. So
that's great. Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. He's he was the one that was his show at iOS, the Top Story Weekly show, the sketch show.
Nice.
We've been working together for a really long time.
Very nice.
Great. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was it.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like, when all this started picking up and the show got picked up, how was it like for you to manage this whirlwind of things that were going on now? Like you say, like you've got to do so many episodes per that agreement and everything. How did you manage all that, getting married and then keeping your family life? Like, how did you keep all of that in check together?
Well, luckily I do a lot of coke. My job is pretty flexible. My full-time job is pretty flexible. I mean, I can do it. I'm recording this from my home studio. And I have a 6-year-old son, and the entirety of his life I've been a work from home dad.
Right.
So you know, I kind of just live a life of deadlines as opposed to 9 to 5. So over the years I've become really good at like, okay, today I have to do this by this time, and then I'm done. And you know, luckily I'm just a really fast producer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really. I mean, and so that's made it easier. Plus, you know, Gina, my wife, she's a godsend in that department because, you know, she really reminds me of things that I have to do. And you know, she makes the kids lunches every day, and she reads to him, or she has him read to her every day. And like, and it's a luckily it's a well-oiled machine here in this house. It wasn't always like that, but it's much easier than it used to be. That's for sure. And you know, it really is like producing of this podcast with Ari. It's we really do have it down to. For a while it was just, you know, chaotic because we didn't really we weren't used to the form, and we weren't used to, like, we didn't know what it was gonna end up sounding like, or what it was what kind of show it was gonna be. But once we figured that out, it's like bring in the guest, record, you know, I'll edit it gets out, boom. It's pretty streamlined.
Nice.
And we record it in my office, my studio, because I also have a studio
Right, right.
full-time employer. So it's all just easy.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit more difficult these days because he's working on SNL.
Yep. And that was actually my next question too. Like, how do you navigate the waters on everything now that he is on SNL? I know at one point you guys did have to go back into the archives for the podcast and release some like best of and best of previous guest type of things. And you even made the announcement like, hey, the show's not going anywhere. But in a situation like that, how do you guys navigate the waters and find time to keep the ship going?
Well, we just learned what each other's schedules are. And then we just bank a bunch of episodes.
Right.
We just kind of, we anticipate when, because we, except for the first month that he was on the show, when we were like, oh, it was a surprise, because they don't really let people know that they're even on the show until right before. But once that happened, we find out when his time off is from the show, and then he comes back to LA, or we work out doing some sort of virtual recording somehow, or however we end up doing it, we just do what we have to do, and because really all we care about is the end product, not really how hard it is to get to it. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's not like we're dealing with nuclear missiles. We're dealing with an improvised comedy show.
Oh, that might be bad.
Yeah. I guess probably the most challenging thing is to have a guest who is able to come in on very specific days and times.
Right.
But it hasn't really been a huge issue as of yet. I mean, the reason why we took those couple weeks off was I actually loved doing that. I thought that was a great idea to do that because it gave people a chance to refamiliarize themselves with some of the guests that we've already had. Because I listen to I hear two things. I hear I love the improvised stuff that you guys do. It's all great. And then I hear people say, I love the interviews. That's my favorite part of the show. I love hearing about the guest's life and then cutting to, and acting out this stuff that they, And it was nice to have a few where it was just that.
Right. Absolutely.
To satisfy the people who really love that part of the show. And there were some of the interviews that when I was putting them together, like reassembling them, so I was like, oh, I totally forgot how fun this interview with Philip Wilburn was. And so it's turned out okay.
Nice. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, still cranking along, still putting out some quality content. Great stuff. If you're not subscribed, we're gonna have the notes or the links in the show notes so that you guys can get caught up on that too. And I highly endorse that. So on the comedy route, like I said, one of the things that I referenced when I first introduced you on the show today was what you were doing on Twitter with the Trump tweets as Emperor Palpatine or the Marjorie Taylor Greene tweets, which are hilarious in themselves. Like, what got the ball rolling on that? Like, and then was there ever any pushback or any trepidation or worry about any negative pushback on that?
Well, the way it started was I saw a tweet from Patton Oswalt when it was just a tweet from Trump, and he said, please, can somebody voice this in the Emperor Palpatine voice? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like I was just like sitting here and I was like, yeah, okay. And so I replied to it and he was like, oh my God, this is great. And I was like, oh, well, I think I might steal his idea and do a bunch of these. And then, he and I kind of, I would just keep bothering him with these videos of Palpatine. And that's kind of how that came about. I mean, and it just kind of kept going and probably a little longer than it should have, because it was, I really beat the bit into the ground.
Right.
But it was fun because at the time my kid was really into Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I used to do that voice all the time around the house, because that actually was one of the voices that I do for my job, is
Yeah.
do impressions and stuff, and that was one of them. And and the main reason why I started doing those in a funny way was because he used to be really scared of that voice.
Oh,
He used to be
really?
really scared of the Emperor. And so I was like, look how silly he is. And then he loved it.
Right,
And
right.
I actually put him in one of the videos, as I had him read one of Don Jr.'s tweets as Junior Palpatine, and and it really was just because I'm so thirsty for fame,
Right,
and
right.
B, to get this kid over his fear of Emperor Palpatine.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, too, I think you guys actually got the nod from Mark Hamill doing all that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that was actually that wasn't because of that. That was because I was constantly bothering him, like tagging him and like, hey, Mark Hamill, why aren't you acknowledging these videos that I'm doing? Come on, man. And I think finally his social media manager was like, you gotta acknowledge this guy's existence. Otherwise he's gonna, I mean, he might be insane. So that might be more of what that was.
But persistence pays off, though.
Right, right. And as for pushback or whatever, I mean, I don't know. I not really. I mean, I don't really worry too much about that. I mean,
yeah,
like people. That's the thing. Like I'm it's really just I'm making fun of the way these people are. Like I'm making fun of the things that Trump is doing, and what and like I'm not making fun of the way. I'm not making fun of what you are and what you're doing. I'm making fun of what these maniacs are, like the weird things these people are doing. And some people get upset by that, and that's fine. I mean, I also like have no problem making fun of the fact that Biden is 1,000 years old.
Yes.
I mean, like, so it's, I don't know. Everybody on people I already have a built-in, whatever the opposite of the fan base of a fan base is.
Yeah.
Just because some of my tweets skew a certain way.
Right. Right. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just like there's just something funnier about making fun of Trump and making fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, it's just funnier to me. And really, it was just an excuse to wear a dress and makeup. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
You're a brave man, my friend. You're a brave man.
Yeah.
Now, with that too, like, and as these start taking off, a lot of people love these, and like you said, like you may think that the Emperor Palpatine and Donald Trump tweets went a little bit longer than maybe you would have liked. But did you ever feel obligation to keep those going because people, people liked them so much, or was it just like whenever you wanted to do it type of thing?
Yeah, no. I mean, I really just like, it really was just, if I saw a tweet that was especially insane, like I'd be like, oh, well, this would be funny if Palpatine was reading this,
right?
And it was really like, what gag can I put at the end of this bit of this tweet that will be funny? Like the one where he's like, we want to play, where he's tweeting about reopening the college stadiums or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, it'd be funny to have Palpatine's spinning a basketball on his finger and hitting a golf club and stuff. Like, that was it. It was just an excuse to kind of just do stuff like that.
Love it.
And the Marjorie videos, I mean, yes, I did feel obligated to do a third one just because I had done two of them.
Right.
And I wanted it to be a trilogy. But then I ended up doing a fourth one where it was just her shitting her pants from it was so stupid. But I really I mean, it's really most of these, because keep in mind my job is to like think of stuff like this all day long.
Yes.
That is like easily consumed by people of all sorts of comedic sensibilities.
Absolutely.
So it's like, on my off time, when I get bored, that's what, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I would never be able to. No radio station is going to play a minute of Marjorie Taylor Greene shitting her pants on the air.
Right.
So like, why not? So that's about it. I mean, I never really, sometimes for a while it was like, I just want Mark Hamill to notice me again.
Yeah.
I just want, but other than that, it's like at my leisure, I guess.
Right. I gotcha. So with that, I know we're coming up kind of closer to time here, and I don't want to keep you from the family for too long or anything.
That's fine. Nobody's here. I'm here by myself. So
perfect. I don't feel as guilty then.
Yeah.
So like what's coming down the pipeline for you guys now?
You guys, who's you guys? Me and Ari?
You and Ari, you and Gina. I know like Gina's got a comedic background too. Do y'all have anything that y'all maybe I know she's been on the podcast some with you guys, with you and Ari, but
yeah, she was a guest on she's actually in every episode.
Yes.
She does the voice at the beginning. She
does.
This voice. I don't know. I mean, I don't no plans as of yet. I mean, we're kind of as for me and Ari, we're just kind of still figuring out getting these episodes out and getting this podcast done. And other than that, I mean, we are just kind of trying to grow that.
Yep, absolutely.
Gina and I mean, we're married now, so we got no other plans now forever. Right. We're boring. We're boring now.
That's the adult part they don't tell you about.
Yeah, that's right. No, we're actually, Gina and I are actually really enjoying the relaxing now that the wedding's over, and
absolutely,
this is one of those rare times where there's nothing to plan for, really.
Even better.
So yeah, I wish I had more coming up, but
trust me, I'm sure something's going to change. I know it comes in ebbs and flows, but man, I know there's going to be a lot more coming. And
well, maybe Trump will get back on Twitter somehow, and maybe he'll be him with fake nose and glasses and be like,
the old John Barron Twitter comes back.
right.
Either that or Eric takes over the fame. I don't know which one is worse, but good Lord.
I don't know. Like there's two sides of this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I shouldn't. Like they're never going to face any. I don't know when this will air. Maybe something will have changed between this moment and when this gets posted. But none of them are really going to face any meaningful consequences for anything.
Yeah.
Nobody is. Nobody ever will. So they're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
nobody's going anywhere. That's the good news for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, in our case, that's a lot more material for you to have in your arsenal and for us on the other end to enjoy if we're not so easily offended or so forward to that side.
Exactly. There was a time when Trump was president, obviously, it's like every day it was like, okay, we got to do something on Trump because he did this or said this.
Yeah.
And then when he allegedly lost the election,
right.
It was people were like, wow, what are you going to do now? You're not going to have anybody to make fun of. It's like, are you kidding? Have you seen this guy? I mean, have you seen, I mean, the new guy. I mean, have you seen him?
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, it's great. It's great. I mean, there's never any shortage of squeezing comedy out of the turnip that is society.
I mean, that's so true. And I mean, like, just to reference Kyle Dunnigan, for example, I mean, like, he had his Trump thing. Now he's got his Joe Biden thing.
Yeah.
He's got his feminist thing. Like, there's something like you said, society is like the never ending fruit that you can just squeeze so much from. And
Right.
There's something for everybody, so long as you look at it from that comedic perspective.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about, when you're in, when you're in improv classes and stuff, they always, the big thing is like, what's the game of this scene? Like, what's the unusual thing about this scene? Right. And that's the great thing about news, is because it's so easy to find the game of, it's so easy to find the unusual thing about any news story, because the reason why it's news is because it's unusual. So as long as there's news of any kind, there's going to be no, people, if your job is to find something funny, you'll be working forever.
Yep. I mean, that's the truth of it. And society right now especially does need more humor. Not so much uptightness, more humor, so everybody can find some middle ground somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's once you kind of figure out the science of why something is funny, and I sound like such a douchebag, but it's
true though.
There's no, it's just endless. I mean, that's why it's like, this show that I'm doing with Ari, it's like, people are like, oh, how long can you guys do this show? How long can you? Well, I mean, forever. Yeah. I mean, you can do comedy forever. It may not be great, but it's something. I mean,
true.
So.
And I guess I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask this question, but with the way things are going today, especially with what people will call cancel culture or political correctness, like, have y'all ever had to reel it back on a joke, or ever had to wonder, like, man, maybe that's too far in one direction? Or do you even see that like having an overall major effect on comedy as a whole?
Well, I'm already, don't let tweets fool you. Yeah. My mind is already works in a way that is like to appease like PG-13 crowds, like easily offended, like so I super offensive comedy has never really been that funny to me anyway, to begin with. And we have the luxury of being able to, after we're done with doing it, basically an improvised 30-minute long show, or however long it is, some of them have been an hour, to be able to go back and just take out stuff that I think is
absolutely true.
Like the big bosses are not going to like this, so we should get rid of this. So, I read an article at somewhere, maybe it was Vox or something, I don't know what it was, but it was about Chappelle. Yeah. About cancel culture, and about this idea of being canceled, which I totally get. I totally get the fear of it. I get it, but I think what people fear more is obscurity, and not being talked about anymore. So that's the fear. I don't think that anybody really is worrying about that. I think the ones that come, that I don't know, or maybe I'm completely wrong. Who knows? But I don't. But me personally, I don't really worry too much about that, because I know that like I tend to err on the side of like just weirdness, as opposed to like offensive. Like I know what voices not to do. I know what accents not to do. Just because I just because I just do. Like I have something in my brain that knows it. Like, oh, this would like again, I'm like trained to like not upset higher ups.
Absolutely. So, I get that.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a kid, and I've got like I've got rent to pay.
Yeah.
So it's
absolutely.
like, so I the last thing I want to do is you know, jeopardize it by.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of brings everything into perspective right there too. And not to get like too like into the family life and everything, but like with him being so young and kind of coming into those formative years, you got him over the fear of Emperor Palpatine and everything. You've seen him like noticing any likes or interests in comedy or following in dad's footsteps?
Oh, yes. Oh man, yes. Definitely. He's like he's a little comedian. I mean, he loves it. And if I do something that makes my wife laugh, he'll start doing the same thing.
Nice.
Cuz he likes the way, he knows the way it feels when kids laugh at him, or when people laugh at him. And he's like, "Oh, if dad's doing that and she's laughing at that, I'm going to just do the exact same thing."
Absolutely.
And people will laugh at it. But yeah, definitely. I mean, that's ever since he was able to talk. I mean, he's been like a singing a day. He has perfect pitch. We took him to at Flappers. They do a thing called 2 Milk Minimum. There's a comedy club, Flappers in Burbank. They do this thing called 2 Milk Minimum with this guy, Michael Rayner, who's he's like a juggler, and he's like maybe he does magic too. I don't think so. I think he just does juggling. But and we've brought him to this show, my kid to this show maybe 3 or 4 times. He loves it. And it's like comedy for kids. Right?
Yeah.
And 3 of the times he's gone on stage. He's like, "Hey, any kids want to come up here and help me out with this trick or whatever?" And one of the times he went on stage, he grabbed the mic. And he's like, he's like 4 at the time. So, what he's saying isn't making any sense. He's like, "Poop this and poops in your face and poop,"
right.
But the kids are just like, they think, I mean, he was like Chris Rock up there. They're like howling at this kid. And he like, it's just so exhilarating to him. You can see in his eyes. He's just like he's really got that stage adrenaline. And, so yeah, I think that he probably has something like that in him.
I love that. I love that.
And sooner or later, he's going to be old enough to see his dad dressed as Marjorie Taylor Greene on Twitter. And he's going to, I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do. No, he thinks that stuff's hilarious.
Yeah. Who knows? You may end up passing down the family dress at that point.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Gina comes in and she's like, "Did you stretch out another one of my blouses?"
Not me, it was him.
yeah, that's right.
Oof, well, man, this has been an awesome and fun interview. And like I said, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do that. So
thank you. It's great.
I am eternally grateful for you, taking the time just to, I guess, and I'll put it in my perspective, talking to a fan, just doing this and taking your time and being so open about your story, man. I really appreciate that.
Oh, of course. I'm happy to do it. I wish that I was a little bit more eloquent in my, I have learned that I stopped myself mid-story when I realized that it's not really going anywhere. And I'm not making any sort of point.
Not gonna lie, I actually I had a similar situation like that with an interview I did last night where I was trying to get to the question and I went 3 different ways around it. Had to stop, hit rewind, and start all over again. So
yeah, I do that.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's when I'll go back and I'll edit some of these shows I do with Ari, and I'm like re-listening to it. I'm like, Andy, get to the point. What do you like? There's a lot of like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, no, nobody knows what you mean. You're not saying anything.
Been there, done that, especially in wrestling. Just grab the hold, and we'll figure it out from there. Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm so grateful that you took the time here tonight, and I want to make sure that everybody that isn't already listening gets tuned into This Is Americans Laugh or This Americans Laugh. Now, I'm sorry.
It's This American Laugh.
This American Laugh. Okay, I was trying to combine the old name and the new name, so my bad on that.
That's
This
fine.
American Laugh.
It's all good.
But we'll have links in the show notes, and I'll also have a link to your Twitter too, so people can keep up with what you're doing. They can see the comedy, and just have a good laugh, hopefully, and share it with somebody else.
There won't be any more Palpatine videos. I swear. Right. No more Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'll think of some other stuff. I did have Press Secretary Kayleigh McMullaney for a while.
Yes.
It's all fake news. No, that was fun. Only did one of those.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can get this guy to his blue check mark on Twitter too. I know that was a thing.
Oh God. So. Don't even tease me. That's never happening. I know it's never happening. I have to deal with this other Andy Harris, the congressman, until he gets what do they call it when they redraw the district lines? Gerrymandered out.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll see if that happens. I actually befriended the woman that was running against him in 2010. So and I actually I made a video. They asked me to make a video for I can't remember what it was. Some the Democratic Party something or other. Some debutante ball they were having, or I don't know what it was, like something. And I made a video for them as I was like, hey, this is Andy Harris. The real one, not the other one. And did a bunch. I did like Palpatine. I did like Sam Elliott and like and I guess they liked it, but it's funny. Like I know there has to be some every once in a while I'll go through because for those of you who don't know, there's another Andy Harris. Mm-hmm. He's a Republican.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. He's a Republican congressman in Maryland, Maryland's 1st district. And he was the one who tried to bring a gun into Congress. It's okay.
Sorry, my 6-year-old has my wife's phone that's connected to this, so I apologize to everybody.
That's all right.
He's figured out FaceTime, so sorry about that.
All right, it's fine. He's the one who tried to bring a gun into Congress.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that story.
Yeah, I do.
The other Andy Harris on that. If you ever see Marjorie Taylor Greene at a podium with a group of people behind her talking about how we shouldn't have to wear masks on the Congress floor, he's always one of the guys behind her. Okay, so he has my elusive blue check mark, and every once in a while I'll search my own name on Twitter, and a lot of people hate this guy. And, people say like, oh, Andy Harris sucks. And Andy Harris is so fun. And I'll go through and I'll like all of those because I know that there has to be some like a dopamine spike whenever somebody sees like, oh my God, Andy Harris just liked that I called him a shithead.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty nice.
Oh, I can only imagine. Man, I didn't even think about that, but that's awesome.
Yeah. But I'll never get that blue check mark. So don't even. That's the one thing that we don't joke about is the blue check mark. No.
And I can tell it. They can't see you on camera, but I can. I can tell how serious of a subject it is.
Yeah, so. No, I don't care about it.
Yeah. But man, seriously, again, thank you. And my 6-year-old trying to do some run-ins with FaceTime on here. I'll take care of that here in just a minute. But man, again, thank you for taking the time here tonight, for being so generous with everything and just being so open. Like I said, I'll make sure I have links to your Twitter and then also to This American Laugh so that people can get subscribed to the podcast, get caught up on previous episodes, and hopefully, share that, have some laughs, and just keep the train rolling.
Sweet. All right. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. And guys, thank you all for tuning in again this week. We'll have another awesome guest next week. I want to thank our sponsors again for keeping this show rolling. Make sure you're following us on all social media platforms. We got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you're subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple, and make sure you tune in next week for another awesome episode. Andy, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. It was my pleasure. And guys, I can't wait to talk to you guys again. And I know you hear me. And thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. That was great.
Everything's good for you?
Sorry. Yeah, it was great. Sorry I didn't talk very much about.
Oh, dude, you're fine.
Gina and stuff. I mean,
you're fine. I mean, I kind of let the conversation go where it flowed, and that felt like it was good, man.
Yeah, good. Good. Yeah. Just let me know when it's. You said January.
Yes, sir.
First week of January.
It's probably gonna be second or third week, right in the middle. I've got to get it over to my engineer, and then also get my graphic designer on the image that'll go out like on social media and on Spotify and everything.
Okay.
If you're cool with it, I took the one of you in the Lakers jersey. So I'll send you.
What's that?
Let me see if I can hold it up here.
Oh, my profile picture of the.
Yes,
or what?
yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
I can also send you a picture from my from
Yeah, if you want to do that too. If you want to do that too, then I can just send both over to the engineer, see which one he thinks fits best with the picture, and I'll get that back to you.
Actually, you know what? I will. I'm gonna send you the picture that we're using for the for the cover art for the show.
Cool.
Because just so it's like this, because I might make that my profile picture for everything, just so there's like it's uniform across all the. Yeah. All right, great.
Perfect.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate it again, and I'll be in touch with all the details and everything, and we'll go from there.
All right, thanks. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.